Welcome to another edition of The Street Report. So I ran into some of my friends on Georgia Avenue near Pitch Tavern, down the street from Petworth, and we struck up a conversation about what's going on with Colin Kaepernick, sports and politics. So we decided to talk about it on today's edition of The Street Report. Also on today's show, Kid Ink and SZA, and a live performance by Tremaine Peacock. Welcome to another edition of The Street Report. I am Easy Street, and we are live from Pitch Tavern, located on Georgia Avenue in Northwest D.C. Yeah, we uptown. How y'all doing?
I'm good. How are you?
All right. Ayanta's here, of course. She's been on previous shows with us. She's a political consultant with Summers Public Affairs, and she came on the DACA show with us and did an incredible job. So she's back. Also in the building is Todd Stewart, Director of Social Impact Preferred Platform Partners, and also Shanice Kraft is here with Redskins Den on ABC7. She's a regular on that show with who is it?
Fred Smoot,
former Fred Davis, Josh Morgan, all those Redskins. And of course today we are here to talk about all things Colin Kaepernick. Of course, there's a lot going on in the country and our world in regards to what our president, who we do not name on this show, we just call him 45 or Commander-in-Chief, or you could just call him the president. But he has come out and made some very derogatory and man, I even know how to I'm shocked that this guy would even tweet some of the things that he said about the NFL and about Colin Kaepernick and call them SOBs, and which is very disrespectful. Now, this whole situation all came about when Colin Kaepernick last year refused to stand for the national anthem, and I just want to go ahead and read what he said originally, what his original reason for not standing was. He said this: "I'm not going to stand up to show pride in a flag for a country that oppresses black people and people of color. To me, this is bigger than football. It would be selfish on my part to look the other way. There are bodies in the streets and people are getting paid leave and getting away with murder." He made this statement after Philando Castillo was killed, and another individual, I can't remember who the other person was.
Terrence Crutcher, maybe?
Yeah, probably so. There's been so many.
I know.
There's been so many that have perished at the hands of the police, but at that moment he decided that he did not want to stand for the national anthem, and since then he has not been employed by anybody.
Not this season. Which is a whole nother story into itself. There are many issues that I want to discuss in regards to this, because this is so many layers, and I can't even believe that here in 2017 that all the things that are going on in the world, that we are actually talking about the national anthem and a flag. And protests. So let's jump right in here. I want to start off with you, Ayanta. We know that there is a history of activism with sports and with athletes in the past, and I want to give you an opportunity to touch on that really quick. I just think that a lot of the things that are being said today by civil rights leaders are the same things that were said by our leaders in the past, specifically Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. They're saying the same exact things, that all black people want is our human dignity and our chance to have the American dream as well.
Mm-hmm. We know that Muhammad Ali was a conscientious objector. He did not want to go to, I believe it was the Vietnam War, correct?
Correct.
And he stood for what he believed in and decided to not fight in this war. We know that he lost a lot of money. He lost endorsements. We know that some other boxers had to come to Muhammad Ali's aid as well. So it's really shocking to me, Todd, that you have individuals here in 2017 shocked and appalled that a black athlete would have anything to say about politics. What do you think about that fact?
It goes to the fact that, to me, about the money they're making. Because it's a sense of, we're giving you this and we're giving you the opportunity to make this money and to have this money. But they don't look deep enough into the understanding of it, that those same people who receive those large checks use that money to help people who are less fortunate, whether it's in their families, it's in their communities, or however it's being used. It's the money that they have to sacrifice themselves for. And if you ask yourself to sacrifice for something, you better make sure that you believe in it and that you care about it wholeheartedly, like Colin Kaepernick, because he's pretty much paying the ultimate price. You know, at the end of the day, he sacrificed his career at this point to speak up for people who he really didn't have to do it for, other than the fact that he was tired of seeing it. So, you know, I think it goes down to the financial aspect, because certain people on certain levels can't really speak that. He was lucky enough to have been able to get a decent contract that he was able to speak up and not really worry about what would happen if he lost that. So to me, it's about economics more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Now, you have friendship with a lot of football players, a lot of professional athletes that are in the game right now. You don't have to say their names, but like what is being told to you inside the locker room with some of the players about the pressure that they're feeling to kneel, to not to kneel, in regards to this whole aspect of the national anthem and what's going on with the NFL?
Well, a lot of athletes that I've been dealing with and talking to, they feel like the narrative's almost been hijacked. You know, it's been taken away from what it was truly intended for and what we still stand to protest for, and it's been taken out of that content to speak about things that aren't on the table as of importance of us right now, for what Colin Kaepernick stood up for and said, I'm not going to stand for the national anthem, because these things aren't being met to my degree of being able to support a song or a country as if everything is good. And so right now, it's a tough situation. I posted something the other day, today, about Des Bryant. You know, to me, I'm saddened by that. I'm not mad at Des Bryant.
What did he say?
Well, he previously spoke about the fact that he didn't want to jeopardize losing paychecks or endorsements by protesting for the same reasons that Colin Kaepernick and you stated.
Right.
But now the agenda has moved, and now that president has made a comment about athletes and the shield, and now it's worthy of him protesting or participating in the protest or even speaking about it. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of people, because they're jumping on a bandwagon that I'm happy to have them on, but they're still uninformed of what the overall objective is at this point.
Is it a bandwagon they're jumping on, or are they doing what they're told by the owners?
I'm glad you said that, because that was my next question for you, Shanice, and not to single out the Dallas Cowboys at all, because you know I'm a diehard Redskin fan. Not to single them out, but to me it appeared that on Sunday Night Football, or was that was Monday Night Football, that whole scene of them kneeling before the anthem was orchestrated.
By Jerry Jones. I'm glad they actually did it, though, because yes, it was staged, and it almost looked like a Rockefeller Center Rockettes performance, because they kneeled all at the same time. But I'm glad they did it, because this whole president thing was about kneeling during the anthem. Well, they kneeled before the anthem, and they were still booed.
Right.
So let's be real. Is it about the anthem, or is it about the kneeling in the cause?
Right. Well, what's shocking to me, and it's really, it's hypocrisy to me. We were talking earlier today, because we know that there was a time that they didn't have the national anthem at the game that required everyone to stand. I believe this came into the game around 2009. When they wanted to be able to try to find a way to recruit more individuals to get into the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. So they decided that if they decided to do this kind of a activity during the game, that might even boost up
ratings,
and it might even and also have more people to enlist. But at the same time, we know that our government disrespects and hasn't funded so many different, and want to take money and opportunities away from the veterans, the same veterans that they say during the game that they want to uplift. So what are we doing? It's like a hypocrisy to me.
Total hypocrisy. I mean, but I think that as far as bringing a private entity, like a private entity as large as the NFL, you can't shield that from the public. Like, you cannot say something like what 45 did, naming specifically bringing athletes into the argument, calling people names, calling them out of their names. There's no way that the American public can ignore this situation right now.
Coming up next, part 2 of our discussion on Colin Kaepernick, the national anthem, where sports and politics meet. Plus, we'll talk to SZA and Kid Ink.
well, he's taken it to the highest office in the land. You understand what I'm saying? So that means that anyone who has an opinion has a right to say something now, and they, there are tons of opinions out there, but 45 has taken it to a level where he's heightened the discourse around the conversation, which is not necessarily a bad thing for people that are protesting, because more people are protesting, but there are now there are now two separate protests going on, and the only person that's being hurt right now is the NFL. You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you brought up Rex Ryan, because this whole entire thing was about, they donated to him, but they did it thinking, okay, well, as long as you don't affect me and my pockets, I'm with you. Hey, I'm going to give you this money. Just leave our business alone.
Yeah, well, 6 teams gave money. Dallas, the Redskins, and the Patriots. We know the Patriots gave up some money, and 3 other teams.
I think the Jets.
I think they're more shocked. Like, how dare you? We tried to support you. We tried to give you money to just leave our industry alone.
Right.
But
exactly.
what they failed to realize, they're dealing with a child, someone that can't get their way and is going to do anything by any means necessary. And what they also forgot was that same number 45 once tried to own his own team.
Right.
So this is kind of probably payback. Hey, y'all guys ain't let me in the good old boys club, so let me just tell everybody to give y'all bad ratings and don't do anything now. Don't watch your games. Leave. Could be a hidden agenda behind this.
A couple things. I want to talk about the ratings situation in a minute, because of course our president is totally wrong about why the ratings are down for football. We'll get into that too. But the other part that I find very interesting about that is this: that it appears to me, and anyone can jump in on. Do you feel like that what the president has said about the NFL has basically brought together the NFL? I mean, does the league look like now, and the players look like there's more unification that this has happened?
No.
Why?
I don't feel that way. I feel that this is a show. Because I know some of the guys personally. I think it's being almost as a controlled entity now.
Oh, wow.
They're going to control, okay, I'm going to let you guys do this. I'm going to let you guys take this knee and take this stand locking arms, but you're going to do it when I say. What I want to see is going further. I want to see what's going to happen after that big one night.
Right.
I want to see going forward what's going to happen. Are they going to still allow these guys to express their freedom of speech and not let them get reprimanded by it? That's what I want to see. I don't want to see the owner standing there. It's a show. And it's not what the whole thing is about. When I was in that stadium for Sunday Night Football, and my emotions were so high because me and my family, we sat during the anthem because we said we're going to stand in solidarity with our friends, with these guys.
Right.
My son is there. I have a son that this whole reason that this is being done is because I'm scared to even let him leave the house.
Right.
I tell him what to wear and what not to wear because I'm afraid because of what he's wearing, he might get stopped. So me sitting in that atmosphere, it was like you could have cut it with a knife. It was so emotional for me. And for us to sit there and hear people booing. They're booing. So you have the freedom to boo, but these young men don't have the freedom to stand up for what they believe in.
Right.
It was so hurtful. Just to know it and just to see what was going on. And to know the emotions that these guys were feeling.
And it's hard. I think that for us as people of color, we understand what it feels like for our families to be victims of police brutality. But a lot of times, the majority population in this country cannot empathize with us at all. It's like, how can you not understand what it feels like for somebody's child to die abruptly or be killed or be murdered? And
it's beyond their comprehension because of their white privilege. Right. They can't fathom it.
But I think that's an excuse.
But my kid's gonna come home every day. They don't have to think like we do. They don't live with that same fear.
But they can still empathize. I mean, they empathize with their dogs.
No.
I can explain. I can give you an example. This is how I feel like sports. I'm on University of Maryland. I play football for the University of Maryland. I have a problem with the University of Maryland. Over the last couple of years, they have celebrated the 1950s, the 1960s, and pretty much the 1940s, during a time where Jim Crow was celebrated,
right,
and it was common, and it was appreciated by the the majority at the time. So when you have times when people are still celebrating the 1960s uniforms or the 1950s teams, that is the direct understanding of the people who we're talking about and we're dealing with right now.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't know that Thurgood Marshall was, he was right in the middle. That's how Thurgood Marshall made his name, saying, wait a minute, hold on, Maryland, y'all can't do this to these black students.
Right.
People forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like people like Darrell Hill, one of the first football players at the University of Maryland, a black football player. And he had to play in a stadium named after James Byrd, who was a no racist.
Right, but they did change that though.
Yeah, and they went for the
finally.
They didn't. They took it off. Right, they removed it.
Right.
But what they didn't do is address what they did wrong and how it was wrong, and try to rectify it by moving forward with it. They named it after a corporation for the money, but they could have still done that and showed some kind of remorse or some kind of appreciation for where we are today. Because at the same time, they removed the name, but they're still celebrating the 1950s teams and the 1960s uniforms through Under Armour, who makes money off this. So tell me, if African American couldn't play football in the 1950s or in the 1960s, who's buying those replica jerseys? Who's supporting that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand that the corporations are putting up the money to make these jerseys, but somebody has to be buying these jerseys.
Making a decision to buy those jerseys and for them to wear
put these kids in these uniforms. So we can protest all we want, but we have to follow the money. You know what I'm saying? That's when I say finance, because you can have a top person like a Colin Kaepernick who's made enough money to live his rest of his life happily and never play football again. But at the same time, you have somebody that's a 5th round draft pick or a 7th round or free agency who felt the same way Colin Kaepernick does. But if you play for the Dallas Cowboys, you better not have taken a knee once everybody stood up.
Exactly.
Right, because just looking at the look on Jerry's face when that happened, you could tell it was like, oh, I got these.
Yes.
I want to say the N-word.
Yes.
I want to say it. I got these.
No, don't say it.
It was 1, 2, 3. Let's do it.
Right. Like Des Bryant said, I don't have to feed my family. Well, what check does Des Bryant stand to lose? He's not going to get cut from the Cowboys. I love the Cowboys. He's not going to get cut. Jerry Jones is not going to cut him.
Right.
He has Jordan brand endorsements. Michael Jordan's not going to fire him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So where does he stand to lose the money? He's the same person that got kicked out of a shopping mall for having this pants sag. A Dallas shopping mall.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when you say the same thing about these owners really making decisions, to me, Des Bryant was speaking of what was told to him.
Right, they're programmed.
Right.
We're programmed
Look at
from
what
a
he
young
said.
age to think what they say go. And what they don't realize is that they're dividing and conquering. If all of those athletes would have sat down, took a knee, you think they're going to fire the whole entire NFL?
So I'm not playing. Like,
No.
Right,
I can miss 1 week.
But with
Everybody
that being said, though, my thing is, and I'm glad you brought up the word divide. I think that the president's real agenda is to divide.
Of course.
I think that is his main thing. I think there's 2 things. 2 words, they both start with D. Divide. And number 2 is distraction from real issues.
Exactly.
And
he thrives in chaos.
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he
does.
likes this.
Yeah.
That is where he is comfortable. He's comfortable having all types of
But this
issues
goes back to
swirling
even
around.
when he was campaigning, he was very divisive in his rhetoric as well. So this is just a continuation of that type of an attitude anyways.
Yeah,
It really is.
And as long as we're just talking about it and we're not doing anything about it, because each time he goes to the left, we need to pull him back to the right. We're just letting him go, making excuses. Oh, he's crazy, something's wrong with it. We have to hold him accountable and stop just making excuses for him and letting him get away with thinking he can say what he wants to say.
So are you saying then that kneeling is just another symbolism, it's really not protest at all?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Okay,
what
Todd?
I'm saying is I want them to continue kneeling to show the form of protest.
Is kneeling enough, or should we be doing more?
We should definitely be doing more, but I think Colin Kaepernick is great for what starting at.
Coming up next, our final segment on Colin Kaepernick and the national anthem. But first, we check in with female R&B sensation, SZA.
I think it happened quickly. I dropped like 3 EPs, and I think I don't know. I honestly thought this was gonna end up like my other EPs, like nobody, well, not nobody, but it would just be like, the people who know about me, and like they're really nice people, and I appreciate those people. But it turned out people liked this, and I really appreciate that. I have no idea what's going on.
What was the difference between this EP and the other ones?
Confidence and time. I took so much time in my own head thinking. I psych myself out and then psych myself back in. Because after a while, it was just like, all right, I'm taking long enough. Like, might as well, anything, just be honest. Might as well just do what you want. So.
Right. And that's what you did on this project that you didn't do before?
I did. So next time I want to like not exhaust myself and do what I want, but just like do it like with a conscious mind, like from the start.
One thing that's dynamic about this whole Colin Kaepernick situation with our president and the statements that he's made, he said, the president said, oh, fire all the SOBs. Wow, man. Wow. Amazing.
You mean us, our SOBs, and not the Charlottesville, Virginia fine people?
No. Yeah. Well, I mean,
not the fine people of Charlottesville.
For him to say that, I mean, and think about what that means. When you're calling someone SOB, you're talking about a son of a, you're talking about somebody's mama.
Yes.
Yep.
And you know how
that's fighting words.
Exactly, with black folks.
Yeah.
So I think that it was directed to these players intentionally to produce exactly what we're talking about right now, is to distract and to divide. Now, speaking of division, we saw what happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. Coach Tomlin came out before the game. He said this on national TV, that my squad is going to stay inside the tunnel until after the national anthem. We've decided this as a team, and then we will come out of the tunnel after the national anthem. However, it didn't work out like that. We know that one of his linemen, Alexandro Villanueva, the guy from the insurance commercials, this guy decided, no, I'm gonna go ahead and go out there. You know, he's a veteran, he's a military guy, and go ahead and hold his hand up there, you know, and do the whole thing. And we know that Ben Roethlisberger said that he felt like that he made a mistake, that the Steelers should have been on the field when they did the national anthem. I want to give you each opportunity to talk about that.
Okay. Ben Roethlisberger needs to shut up forever. That's all I got to say about him. He has no credibility as far as I'm concerned. So I don't even want to
considering his past. You're talking about
his
the
brutal past, his checkered past.
Man, you have to know he can't do that.
Anyway, Ben Roethlisberger needs to shut up and not say anything, because he don't have nothing to say about all these accusations that are against him that are worse than somebody taking a knee. So why he gonna say something now? And why are we even discussing him? Moving on. That's all I have to say.
You're shaking your head no?
No, I understand what Ayanta is speaking of, and I agree with her at some points. But what I would say is that Ben Roethlisberger is a leader of men, as far as on the football field. You know, so at that point in time, I understand what he's saying. He's saying that, hey, I should, whether I want to stand up, because he may have taken a knee. We don't know what his stance would have been or could have been. So I agree with what Russell Simmons said. Walking away and stepping into the locker room is not going to address this or move this issue forward. I felt like that was, sorry to say, but a bit cowardly, because at the end of the day, the absence of your vote doesn't mean that you care one way or another about the issue. You know, Mike Tomlin is also another leader of men. If he said, hey, these guys need to be out here and they can choose to protest how they want, that's their right. He took away the ability for a lot of those guys to protest or to stand up for. And I think that I wanted to see who were the people who would stand up.
Right, who's going to man up. That's what I want to see. That's the only reason why I tuned into the Dallas game. I just wanted to see who was going to kneel. Go ahead.
All right. I didn't watch the games. I watched the highlights because I didn't want to give them ratings. So I sat there watching highlights the whole entire time.
Oh, you have one of them little Nielsen boxes?
Yes. But anyway,
you have one of those boxes in your house?
I'm glad you brought up Villanueva, that he is a veteran, an Army veteran. Mm-hmm. Because as we know, in the military, it's excellence. It's teamwork, and it's following your commands. So what he did was basically he went rogue. He did not follow what they had already agreed on. If he did not, even if he did not agree on it, that's a team that stayed in the locker room. Just like Ben Roethlisberger didn't agree on it, but he stayed in because it was a team decision. I don't agree with, I understand what he did. He could have stood in the tunnel at his stance. But I think as a team, he should not have done that.
You know, before we close out, there's no way that we can leave this discussion without talking about Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis. Have you heard now they're talking about there's a petition going on that they want to take down they want to take down his statue over there at M&T.
Did Bob Whitfield start that?
I don't know who started it, but just for the people that don't know the backstory, originally Ray Lewis came out when this whole Colin Kaepernick story was beginning to bubble up and said that, that was so disrespectful for Colin to do that. How could he do that with the veterans, blah, 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 fought for this country, and we already know this ain't got a damn thing to do with veterans. This is about police brutality, folks, right. So let's not try to change the narrative.
Exactly.
As it's been
Ray was just doing
hijacked.
what he was told to do.
Yes.
But with that being said, now Ray goes over to London with the Ravens. When they took their knee, he gets down on both of his knees. I guess he said he was praying.
He was praying.
Your thoughts on Ray Ray?
First of all, I love Ray Lewis.
I do too.
I love Ray
He's
Lewis.
one of my
As a football
favorite
player.
As a football player,
And as
number 52 is my favorite linebacker of all time.
He has a big heart. I've seen him do a lot of things in the community.
He's a man of God too.
He's a man of God, but he's wrong. He's wrong at this one. He's been wrong a number of times. Ray Lewis is blessed to be able to be amongst us right now.
Since we're talking sports on today's edition of the Street Report, I ran into Kid Ink out LA. And of course we talked about the Lakers and the NBA draft pick that everybody's talking about.
You guys got Lonzo.
Right.
I mean, is this going to get you guys into the playoffs?
If Lonzo can get the Lakers to the playoffs his first season, he might be the new king of LA. they gonna crown that little kid.
My name's Tremont Peacock. Follow me on Instagram at Peacock_2_fly. My song is LeBron James Harden. Hey, drop that easy.
No Millennium Records.
Yeah. Anything you can do, I can do better. Yeah.
Taylor.
Y'all ready or what? Let's go.
Back when I was 9, I pick up a mic and rhyme.
I knew that kingdom gon' come in a minute. Came right on top, cause we ballin'. Hey. We ballin', we ballin', hey, we ballin', we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin', we ballin', we ballin', we ballin', we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden. Y'all think y'all the sugar, honey, icy, and y'all ain't farted. I took the Browns to the Super Bowl. Now watch me flush the toilet. Y'all ballin' double, y'all carry what? Travel what you call it what you want. Well, in my backyard, we call that walking. We ballin' and one. Shot callin' and one. At 5 get flavor, 2-piece and a biscuit and one. All that in the bag of chips and some. See me 101. Pick your pocket when I pick and roll. Now watch me stop and pop it. We ballin', hey. We ballin', we ballin', hey. We ballin', we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden, we ballin',
we ballin',
we ballin', we ballin', we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden,
we ballin' LeBron James Harden.